Have you ever wanted to take a closer look at some of your favorite characters? Well, you come to the right place. My name is Terry Bartley, and this is Character Study. Welcome to the first ever episode of Character Study. This is a show where I take a look at characters that have gotten criticism, and I discuss why I either agree or disagree, or maybe just find some amazing things about them that we maybe never thought about before. This show was inspired by a video I made a few months back about Belle from Beauty and the Beast and how I didn't believe she had Stockholm Syndrome. I actually received a comment from YouTube user Mel F who requested that I make another video about the Disney princess Jasmine. While I'm not as huge of a fan of Jasmine as I am Belle, I'm not exactly one to turn down a challenge. So with a little bit of research and a little bit of rewatching of one of my favorite Disney movies, here it is. Analysis of Jasmine. Jasmine is actually a really progressive character. First of all, she does add diversity to the Disney pantheon of princesses. She's of Middle Eastern descent, which is pretty rare among Disney princesses, and she's actually Muslim. The Sultan actually makes reference to Allah once in the movie. So I'm pretty excited to get into Jasmine, really find out what makes her tick. So one major criticism that Jasmine got early on is that the majority of her actions were motivated by marriage. They point to the fact that she needed to get married because of her society. Everything she did was trying to justify why Aladdin would be an okay mate for her to marry and rule her kingdom with. And I just feel like this is completely inaccurate. Because if you rewatch the film, in the beginning, she adamantly does not want to get married. She especially doesn't want to marry anyone that the Sultan just throws at her. And she even goes so far as to run away from the palace just so that she doesn't have to be forced into marriage. I don't know about you, but that doesn't sound like somebody that's craving marriage to me. And honestly, her relationship with Aladdin seems to make complete sense because she's clearly been very sheltered. Whenever she comes into the marketplace, we see she doesn't even know traditional social constructs. Things like you would need to pay for something in the marketplace, because she helps the little girl get an apple and doesn't think about the fact that that shopkeeper also needs to make a living. And then once Aladdin saves her from that, because of her complete lack of any knowledge about regular society, she proceeds to get to know someone for the first time, really. At least outside of the Sultan and Jafar. Basically her entire life she's been getting princes thrown at her that she really has no shared interest in. So she finally met one person that she can connect with on a personal level, and she finally understands that marriage may not be the worst thing in the world if I can find someone that I actually want to spend my life with. And then once he fakes being a prince to woo her, and she starts to believe he's a prince, then she starts to think, I actually like this guy, and he fits all the criteria required for me to marry somebody. And I think that to a certain extent she also understands that her kingdom is kind of hurting, because she saw the poverty that's out there, and she knows that they need a true leader. And that could be Jasmine. All of this gets overturned whenever Jafar begins to take over Agrabah, which leads me to the second major criticism. People like to say that Jasmine, just like a lot of the other Disney princesses, was waiting to be saved, that she needed somebody like Aladdin to come and save her from Jafar. I feel like this couldn't have been further from the truth. Whenever Aladdin does show up, Jasmine actually proactively helps him and in a way aids in her own rescue. She seduces Jafar because she knows that that's something that he desires, and even compromises her own emotions by kissing Jafar and attracting him long enough for Aladdin to get to the lamp. Which, by the way, that's an important distinction to make. People may say, oh, well, why didn't Jasmine try to save herself before? Let's remind ourselves of the events before the capture. Bard wished the genie to become the most powerful sorcerer in all the world. That means he had insane magic abilities on his side. Whenever Aladdin showed up, he wasn't trying to face Jafar by himself. Aladdin and Jasmine, they're not magical. They're just people. So what did he do whenever he first showed up to save Jasmine and the Sultan? He went for the lamp. He didn't try to attack Jafar. He's not crazy. And for all we know, Jasmine may have been trying to get to the lamp this whole time. The opportunity just hadn't presented itself so far. And yes, one could argue that Aladdin does outwit Jafar in the end. So it wasn't brawn that beat him, but wit. And that Jasmine could have done the same thing. But let's remind ourselves that was in the midst of combat. Jafar had been provoked by Aladdin and was forced to change forms into a snake and put Jasmine inside of a hourglass with sand suffocating her. And honestly, he wasn't thinking straight, and Aladdin took advantage of that. And yes, Jasmine could have done that, but Jafar probably wasn't going to attack Jasmine the same way that he attacked Aladdin. Which brings everything full circle back around to the first criticism. Jasmine wants to marry Aladdin because he saved them all. Aladdin came back to Agrabah after Jafar sent him away. He really didn't have to do that. And she's impressed not by his seduction or his manipulation of her, which many people like to say is the case, but she's attracted to his resourcefulness and his clever mind. She knows that she would be okay marrying this person, and she also knows that she has to get married in order to rule Agrabah. She's making the best of a bad situation. Her actions isn't motivated by marriage, but rather marriage dictates her life, which makes her an even more progressive character because in the end the Sultan changed the law for her. She's actually a catalyst of change. She is the reason why now princesses in Agrabah can marry whomever they desire. Admittedly, it would have been great if they didn't have to marry anybody at all, but them's the breaks. And in the end, Jasmine is honestly probably the most redeemable character in the movie. If we look at every character, they all have things that make them seem a little ridiculous. I mean, Aladdin is able-bodied and really smart, and yet he doesn't work at all in an economy that is terrible and doesn't contribute to society in any productive way at all. He just steals to survive. I mean, yes, you could argue that he Robin Hood some food to some little kids, but I mean, he stole that bread from a shopkeeper who probably isn't doing that great either. The Sultan is completely inept and plays with his toys all day and clearly has no idea how to rule a kingdom. And that's why he's in such bad shape at the start of the film. And Jafar, while redeemable, does some pretty horrible things throughout the course of the movie. But honestly, I'm not going to get into Jafar. If you take a look at Star Kids' musical Twisted, which you'll notice a poster for up here in the corner, they do a pretty great job of reanalyzing Jafar, so I'm going to link to that in the comments. But Jasmine has been sheltered and doesn't know a lot about the world, but is clearly a capable and strong character. And I feel like at the end of the movie, what we should take away is that she's going to be Agrabah's future. I feel like she will be able to lead them into a better tomorrow. Of course, if we jump into the future and see where Agrabah is now, we may change our minds. I mean, this is a fantasy, right? There's genies and wizards and talking animals. That is it for this first episode of Character Study. I hope that you will subscribe to this channel and see more of these. I'm going to focus on Disney princesses to begin with, but I think that I will slowly start integrating other kinds of characters, just things that have been criticized or just people that I love to talk about. Be sure to like this video if you enjoyed it. If you have any comments, be sure to leave them. I'd love to have a conversation about Jasmine or any other Disney princess. Just start it in the thread below. I'm sure I'll comment to basically anything you say. Before this video, I did a series on diversity and representation in media. Be sure to check that out over here. But that's it for now. I'll see you next time. I would like my content to be something that everyone can enjoy. And I feel like in order for everyone to enjoy it and make it the best product possible, then I should include characters that are from